And welcome back yet again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Upsurge Premier League. I'm yet again your host for the evening, ravishing the most ravishing man on the internet. As always, by my side is Mr. Eric Strux Beltran. I'll, of course, be my wonderful analyst, looking always so condensed and handsome. And of course, because it is another day, we do have another very, very special guest for y'all. So please join your hands and welcome it. Y'all get ready to make thunderous applause for Mr. CLG Miko, coach, analyst, and all-around fantastic human being. Welcome to the show, Miko.
Hello, thanks for having me. That was a very lengthy introduction. I think I've never had something that lengthy in my entire life. I thought I will have one too, but yeah, thank you.
Of course, man. With all your accolades, I'm actually reducing some things. You do 4,001 things that I can't even hope to remember.
Yeah. You gotta remember, he's the paladin for my D&D campaign. He's also a fellow metalhead. So there's a lot of things for Miko here, and I have most respect for him for his time with CLG.
Exactly. Also, not aside from being an analyst, who's also a coach for a collegiate team, along with ASU, and he owns a Gucci belt. So that on its own should tell you more than you should know about him.
Debonair Miko, man. Debonair Miko.
He's never not Debonair Miko, bro. I've never seen this man not just stepped up and dripped out in style. Yo, my man so much got drip on him, he's literally showering. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's just move on to what we have in the matchup for tonight. Because, we can talk back and forth about how cool everything is. Thank you for bringing that up. That's the definition of Miko right there. Here, we do, of course, will be seeing Striking Vipers Maestros going up against Wildcard Developmental. Two round type rosters, right, who are there to be built up from their main teams along with a bunch of very promising players. So this right here should be a really interesting match. So to start us all off here, Miko, let's go to you first to talk about WCD.
So Wildcard is a brand that is familiar to almost everybody. I actually learned that Wildcard Development existed 3 days ago when I was notified up there by one of the UPL people. And I was very pleasant to realize that Cleve and Izo were present in these rosters, and those two players that I'm relatively familiar with. One, Izo he's been around in the scene for a long time. He's been the top laner for Columbia College. Played against him when I was coaching ASU for the Nationals, and he is a solid player in a lot of ways. Seemed like from the match histories that I have seen, he actually expanded his champ pool, where he used to play a lot of Volibear, Renekton, and those type of sack tank type of top laners. Now he's been playing Relia in one of the match histories. So excited to see more gameplays from him and this potential stylistic change.
Now, I've actually seen him talk to Izo quite a fair bit. Considering he went from the Maokai 1 quote unquote to expanding his champ pool, I am actually quite excited about it. And Izo, if you're watching, yo fam, I hope you good. I know we was talking about before. Izo was saying he's not too sure about where his future lies, but I'm excited to see you've ended up somewhere special. But on the other end, they're not going to take any sort of chance lying down either. We have Striking Vipers, Maestros as well here, Eric.
Now, Striking Vipers, they have been a little bit more of a shaky team to me. Of course, the sample size is really small because Dare is in that group, and Dare did forfeit the entire tournament. Both of these teams have gone against Rock Tribe Esports. The difference is Wildcard was able to sweep through them. Striking Vipers had their struggle going through them. They had a bloodbath in game 1. In game number 2, the enemy ADC pops off. They're able to get a win. Game number 3, top just ends very, very hard, and everything falls apart. But you do see specks of potential coming out of them with the way they've been playing, at least so far in the tournament. You do have those turnaround moments. You do have those team fight moments, more often than not around Drake and Stevenator. Well, not Stevenator, Censored Mercy that last time I played. Stevenator should be the starting one coming up. So it might be a different flow. It might be a different thing. They are a very experimental team. They like to try things out a lot more. Every single player has played a different champion in every game they played. Again, it's still small sample size, only 3 games, but they're a team that's willing to grow and learn. I do think they are a little bit outmatched against Wildcard, but we got to see how this day plays out.
I mean, outmatched definitely is one word for it, considering their whole match history has been definitely back and forth, like you mentioned, between going to FFs and such, and And with all the roster swaps coming in, by the way, have y'all noticed how like more often than not within the overall UPL season, it just seems to be like all these mids just keep changing it back and forth, which personally to me is surprising. I feel like the overall mid champ pool, sorry, or I should say the overall mid pool for players within North America is quite strong. So I'm surprised they're like trying to make so many swaps here back and forth. But hey, I mean that's just where my opinion lies though. But besides all of that, I do actually want to get y'all's predictions and thoughts on tonight for who you think is going to win. Miko, start with you first.
I think it's safe to say that Wildcard is just going to 2-0. There may be surprises, but I think that it's also like just going to be really one-sided. Hopefully I'm proven wrong because I love series all the time and talking about them. But yeah, for now, like that's my take.
I mean, Eric, moving on to you, homie. I think we kind of see where we're at.
You see it on the screen, man. I believe it's going to be a wild card 2-0. Striking Vipers haven't impressed me so far in the season, and wild card definitely has. I'm most excited for Ivano right now, who has been going the old school traditional control mage mid laner so far in the season. So excited to see that. Aurelian Soul Malzahar already picked so far. I think wild card's going to take it.
I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that y'all got as well, right? Your wild card. I know the staff behind them. We know how hard they work on making sure that the players improve. And with the roster they currently have, I'm excited to see how far they can take it. Plus, I got to hold off my boy ISO. So with all that being said, of course, I'm also on the 2-0 train, but we can't conspire to the future. What we can do, though, is pass it off to our casters, Rebel Fox and Travesty, for the night to see what they show us with the beautiful voices and eyes. So take it away, Rebel Fox and Travi.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UPL here. We are getting into the action, and it is looking like it is going to be a phenomenal night here. My name is Travesty, and I am joined here with my co-caster, who didn't get the memo that Thirsty Thursday ended yesterday. He's still out here trying to make everybody thirsty. It's Rebel Thoughts. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Every day is Thirsty Thursday. When you look like this, it's just gonna happen. Sorry, everybody. It's not intentional. It's natural.
Some people are cursed with it.
Some people are cursed with it. That's why Travis isn't allowed to be on camera for more than 12 hours a week. That's government mandate. So.
I'm not supposed to expose my secrets like this. There's a reason I don't book. Like
that's fair. That's fair.
But we got an exciting matchup here for us. We got Wildcard Developmental going up against the side of Striking Vipers. It should be a very fun game here, and we got a lot of talent that could actually you and me were talking about it before we went on air. There's so much potential here in the Rift.
Yeah, I really like what I see from Wildcard's developmental roster. I don't know that ISO belongs in the name developmental because he's been around for a while and he's a really good top laner already, so I don't know what it is that they're developing here, but it is maybe he's the person developing things because he obviously has that talent there already and he's been around the block once or twice. ISO's going to do well. But even names like Ivano, who's been around for a little while, Psycho made that debut on Wildcard Red. This was just like it was a foray into his debut here for Wildcard Developmental. And then Cleve, who did some really good stuff over for the side of Miami University as their starting supports. There's a bunch of players here who have a bunch of developmental talent. Hence the name, I guess, Wildcard Developmental coming into this one, wanting to expect better of these players down the road. Maybe not this second. Are they going to be like Proving Grounds, Academy potential? But I could definitely see a lot of them stepping into that role over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and they have a lot of ways to do that. Like you talked about it, you already hit on the fact that this is a developmental roster by the name at the very least, and that becomes a very interesting part of it. But over on the other side, you do have Striking Vipers Maestros, they're a team that we've had Striking Vipers as a kind of a mainstay here inside of the UPL, and it's interesting seeing some of the talent that they've been able to bring about as they're going into this matchup against a roster that's full of potential.
Yeah, this is the second roster they've got there. Their sister team's actually doing some really great stuff over in the Ocean Division, but here the Maestros, they've got some pieces from some of the old Striking Vipers rosters you'd recognize, like Diesel. I'm pretty sure Vital was on some of those rosters as well, and then other players stepping in across the board in multiple positions. One of the big names that I was looking at was Stevenator. At that same tournament Cleve was at with Miami, he was sitting there with Aquinas, who actually had surprised a bunch of people by dropping out University of Illinois, so big Stevenator fan here, a really good player. And then their jungler Pyrian, or Pyro, and I'm not exactly sure how to say it. I apologize. I'll get yelled at some point by somebody to tell me how to say it.
Somebody will
exactly,
tell you.
Somebody's going to yell at me because I just always pronounce it wrong somehow. But those two really excite me as that mid-jungle duo, and I think that's where this power is going to come from the Maestros here today. And that's what I'm looking for them to play to, is that combination of champions to attack the rest of the map with, because I think those are your best options here against the likes of Wildcard.
Yeah, and honestly, we're going into the games here. I want to see exactly what they have prepared for each other, right? Because draft is going to be a big part of it. I want to see what kind of power that they got planned here. We got a very interesting thing that's coming up here. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we're having a little bit of issues on the backside here. So we're going to throw it over to a break for a quick moment. When we come back, we're going to be looking to tackle what is going to be one hell of a match. So make sure you do not touch that browser.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. I'm really happy about that. Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with the show. The entire time we had ran out of Travis minutes. I just got special orders so that we could get just enough to finish tonight's stream. So thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Travis, to the stream, everybody. Travis, man, we were really hoping to not have to find somebody else to fill for you. I didn't want to be next to Ravish for the remainder of the evening. I'm so happy you're back.
You know what? If there's anybody I would want to be with, it's right here with you, Rebel. So thank you for talking to Mr. President to get some more Travie time over here as we are getting into the draft, ladies and gentlemen. And we got Wildcard taking on Striking Vipers, and we got a couple changes that did happen from both sides here. As we've seen Twitch chat get very excited.
Yes. So first off, Hayami steps in for Wildcard Developmental. Can you call them Wildcard Developmental right now? Like, this is a roster of decent experience. Crazy Goose and Yasin are also stepping in as substitutes into the main roster here. That is a bot lane pair that they've had before. And on the side of Striking Vipers, they also bring in Pain Train in the top lane, coming in from FSU back in his days in Collegiate.
Yeah.
Really excited to see what he can do. And then Zoom and also stepping into that support role today as well.
I'm really ready to see exactly what they got for us, man, because this is going to be such a fun series here just because of all the wrenches that have been thrown into everything. It's absolutely phenomenal. And, man, seeing the copy pasta for Pain, I'm going to be honest with you. If there's one thing as a player that would hype me up, it's just seeing Twitch chat just going off for me. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Pain because, you know, if he's going to be looking to lay out a statement, this definitely be a series to do such here as we're going through the ban phase pretty slow here. Lucian, Viego, Victor going pretty steady throughout this.
We wanted to make a point, I know our desk talked about it, that the combination of Ivano and Stevenator also are some of our most likely to pay mages. I know that like Cassiopeia was the one in the back pocket for Stevenator that he absolutely popped off on a base defense against Illinois that got me more hyped than anything I've ever been in my entire life, so there's that to consider as well. For the side of Striking Vipers, they say, we're playing against experienced members. These are people who have played at the top level of League of Legends, like the Yasmin's been inside of Proving Grounds, Hayami, Aizo have both been a part of that circuit for a very long time as well, making sure not to give power. Viego, Xin Zhao. Now Ziggs also taken away from Crazy Goose. Get rid of that annoying little mouse in the bottom lane that just wave clear everything out the door.
And it does lead us into a tricky scenario as that just leaves Diana wide open to be able to take by Wildcard. I mean, if you're going to take a first pick, I think that's one hell of a good one to lock in for yourself.
Interesting. It is. And it gives Hayami quite a bit of agency because like Hayami... I mean, I remember it used to be the combination of him and Robert that had like the Gragas and the Yasuo. Now you could do that same thing, but you do it with like the whole engage everybody instead with Diana. So like Hayami wants to take things into his own hands on the other side. Like the Karma is going to be defensive. I like that because it could probably shift into a couple different positions. I don't know if Zuman is able to play that one in the support role. I know you can get really good matchups with it as well.
Yeah, and seeing if this Karma's going to go ahead and get locked in. It does, right beside of the Vola Bear. So, kind of interesting little bit of a composition coming out here between these two. And, I mean, I'm a fan of speeding up the Bear, but the question is, what did they give up? And Ashla's like, it's the answer immediately.
Yeah, I like a ton of skirmish power that you got between the Karma and the Volibear. If you put it into the jungle position, then you can go nuts on this pick just because of how easy it is to get aggressive early. And Diana can duel early in the game, but can't outmatch things like Lee Sin or Volibear or even like Xin Zhao's early game just because of how powerful that they are, especially with the Karma in their back pockets. That gets helped out by the side of Wildcard because they say, okay, we're going to go Ashe. Now all of a sudden you go E in your early levels, you spot out that Volibear very quickly. And the Thresh means that you've got both an aggressive laning phase to set up with things like volley shots into the Varus, hopefully some protection to come through from Striking Vipers, or that Karma goes into the bottom lane just to try to put some harassment back into Thresh Ash, so there's not just a bunch of control into this anti-mobile ADC here.
Yeah, and I feel very weird seeing this now because, like you said, I would want to see them have some tools to be able to defend this Varus, right? Like, you want to have something in your kit to stop it. They don't really have a lot of damage on the side of Striking Vipers is where I'm getting at. And I look over on the other side, and yeah, Ashe isn't the outputter of damage, but man, I see a Diana immediately. I'm like, who protected this Varus from the Diana?
Nothing right now. I guess Karma Shield, that's the best that you've got when it comes to like trying to give protection at the moment. Do notice that both teams have done some research because they say, okay, no tanks for you, Aizo. No tanks. No Scion, no Shen. play something carry worthy. We're not going to let you play something tanky that can actually play in the earlier stages. And notice, teams listening to Wildcard, they say, okay, no Cassiopeia for the side of Stevenator. The Bard also being removed from Zoomin as that pool getting pinched even further down. I'm wondering if they're able to get Karma down there, but instead Nautilus just gets locked in, paired alongside the Varus for some engage that you can work with. That counter to Thresh as well.
Yeah, and now over onto the other side, you do see the Jace possibly getting hovered here. I was about to say that would be a big departure here, going between Jace and Malphite, but here it is. Jace getting locked in. This Diana is still flexible, by the way. You could see it.
Could. I think Orianna could fit here very well too, which is why I think maybe the Malphite was getting hovered as like another ball delivery system for Diana, because you think like one of them hits ultimate, the other one hits ultimate, you stack another Orianna ultimate on top of it, damage is done. This would be interesting. Okay, so now you've got solo lane Tahm Kench is what it's looking like, picked into Pain, even though Pain was the one who was picking this most commonly. I was saying that before we started. He's been playing top lane version of it. It seems like Iso is the one who grabs it ahead of time, making sure that's not going to go into his hands for that lane dominance the way we talked about it. I don't know if he goes for the same build path. We'll see once we get into lane, because that was a really interesting one. But either way, I think this also is what prompts now the push of the Volibear into a solo lane rather than into the jungle position, and giving Pyrin something to carry with this Talia, where like now you've got some ability to affect the map with that shove and with some burst damage, but more importantly, like there's now comfort there, and they've got something that can compete, because Pain has to know how hard it is to deal with Tahm Kench in the top lane.
Yeah, I was about to say, you are picking it into the person who should know exactly what this champion can do the most. So that does become a tricky point. I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm not a big fan of the Striking Vipers composition, though, man. Like, Volibear, in my opinion, with the Karma in the mid lane that we got going on here, could be a very interesting thing, but this is a pretty relatively low damage composition until they got a couple items. I'm a little bit scared if Striking Vipers aren't able to get the ball rolling with this Talia and with this Varus on how it will be able to hold together.
So on one hand, I'm thinking like, okay, if Varus goes lethality, you can challenge at a decent range where it's like, okay, Jace is going to be able to do that, Ashe is going to be able to do that from a decent range, and even Tahm Kench from like a range can threaten like an engagement or something along those lines, yeah? So like Varus, if he's lethality, does that. But like you said, with the lack of damage coming out from this team, I feel like you almost have to go on hit, and so then you're challenging for melee range, but that allows all this poke from the side of Wildcard to come through. So it's like it's a catch-22 situation where on one hand, like you have to be really decisive and say, okay, we're going to use this Varus poke. You got to get it ahead early just so it's poking out enough to shut out what Ashe and Jace and all these champions do. But if you're playing that front-to-back team fight where it's got to be Varus on like the on-hit type thing, then you need to be able to soak some of that frontline damage, or you need to be able to soak some of the poke that's going to come through from this team, or be very, very quick on your engages just to make sure they don't have the ability to drop a bunch of shock blasts or volleys or things like that.
And then there's a lot for Wildcard Developmental to really be able to like choose their shots. You talked about the volley, you talked about some of the poke. I also really like the fact that he do have some pretty solid tools for themselves if they want to go. I'm going to go ahead and go right to the thing that I'm most interested in is still this Tahm Kench and how it's going to play out, because this is my first time actually seeing Tahm Kench since they've in a competitive game where you actually get to see those new changes, and I have seen it actually kind of risen up in some of the solo lanes and whatnot. He actually has kill pressure and whatnot, so I'm actually really, really excited to see exactly what the practice is looking like, and I'm curious to see what the counterplay from Pain's going to look like as somebody who does play this champion quite often.
Yeah, we've seen Tahm Kench, I think, even after the changes where everyone kind of expected him to move to more of an aggressive kind of laning position, the ways I've seen it played is still support. It's still that. It's just more of an aggressive support than a defensive support where you're not using it for safety. You're using it as like an engage the same way you'd use something like a Rel or something like that in that regard. And it does make for some very fun early aggression and things like that. But in the top lane position, we saw that Pain was running it with like Hull Breaker and Anathemas and like bunch of health that could run, and it just ruins your day to have something like that come through for that pure lane dominance that those items bring. And I wonder if Iso is going to torture Pain with that as well, because Pain has been the one that's been using that against his opponents in solo queue and things of that sort. So seeing where this Tahm Kench goes with the build, also how it plays out for Iso, it is a tank that fits into that mold that he tends to go for. So all these things kind of stack forward for me being excited about Tahm Kench. And like you said, this is my first time seeing it, not necessarily in game, but more so in a solo lane where we expected it to land.
And I'm ready to see, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are as well. I hope you're prepared because we got Wildcard Developmental taking on Striking Vipers Maestro here in game number 1. And it's looking like it's going to be a fantastic game already. Seeing exactly as we're going across the table, seeing everybody kind of taking a pretty standard start, just getting those nice little wards laid out on the field.
Making sure to keep their rivers protected respectively. I do want to note really heavily that, like, if you can get early river control with the likes of, like, Varus and Nautilus push things like that on the bot side over top of the Ashe, over top of, like, if Karma can pull it over Jace in the earlier phases, there's a lot of CC to work with on this Talia so that you can get going very early. And again, Pyroid is the one that I'm putting a bunch of, like, a ton of, like, the kind of view into. And that's why they're putting early resource into it immediately by saying, we're going to go late invade, we're going to take this red buff away as fast as possible and try to get this Talia into an advantageous situation where you're pulling extra farm compared to the likes of Hayami on this Diana.
And if they went 1 second earlier. Could have caught that Thresh, man. Could have gone ahead and taken him down as we are going into what is a level 2 gank, it looks like, as Talia got the zoomies and is looking to hit him with a seismic shove. Not going to be able to connect on that. It's going to be a flay instead, and the damage is astronomical. Forces a flash over the wall, but the volley follows through. The crazy goose finds his prey.
The attempted play, it was spotted out that, like, late invade that had come through. So Crazy Goose and Yasin understand that. They're positioned far enough back. Seismic Shove misses Crazy Goose. And again, the auto attacks from Ashe, the flay that came out from Yasin at just level 1 are enough CC to course it. And then, of course, the flash over the wall from Pyro and thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to get away. I'm not going to have any threat against me here because they're going to give up on this. It's the flash over the wall because they didn't have vision there for Crazy Goose that gets over, hits the W auto attack to get that first kill. So now what was the initial investment into the likes of the Talia to begin this laning phase, to begin this jungle pathing, has already been thwarted, and an advantage going over to the Ashe. 2 very bad things for this Talia.
Yeah, very bad things indeed. Had to see how the recovery is going to look like. Diana did not take a red buff, actually, away from this Talia, so that is actually a very curious thing. Did not punish by taking that. Instead, routing straight to this bot side, getting these chickens here. Then Talia looks like she might be trying to run it back to bot side.
Yeah, I think what it is right now is it's the thought process is that Talia has never actually known whether or not the red buff was taken. Ooh, onto Stevenator potentially? Yeah, flash from the Karma is going to keep him out of that. I think what it is Hayami's trying to big brain this by saying, okay, the last thing that Pyroan would expect is for me to not take his entire top side. So if he leaves red and Krugs up, yes, that's leaving the buff up, but it's also not getting resets, and it's not collecting more gold for next time. And it's just going to sit there because Pyroan has no clue that it's available right now. And so he's going to come back to the top side. He's going to see Krugs are available, and he's going to go, okay, these are like level 2 Krugs, so they've been reset by the likes of Miami.
Oh no, he's
Okay.
caught out again. The
It's even
death
worse.
sentence hits. He goes down. There's no flash to save his life. The Ignite is
Yasin.
taken away onto the Thresh.
Oh, no.
They're looking to follow this up, going further onto this Nautilus. But look at this. The Varus is just free hitting, just laying in the damage.
Oh my
Anchor
goodness.
doesn't connect. The minion jumps in front. Crazy Goose is on a killing spree, and now it's Vista that's getting ran down. The arrows hitting there, but it is still going to be a kill that eventually goes over to the Ashe. That is a double kill in favor of Wildcard Developmental. That was just chaos ensuing.
Goodness. Yeah, it's another play in a bot side because, again, Pyroan is expecting that this top side is just gone at the moment, not able to be taken. And they are trading back and forth between these 2 marksmen where Ashe is going to be going for the on-hit. Oh, Talia is here. Man, Pyroan, you are going to be so upset when he goes back to top side and find out his Krugs were never reset. Oh, no. The red buff's not even gone. It's a level 1 red buff, man. Like, this is torture to watch. Oh, no.
And now it's Pain that's on the Pain train. He's getting ganked. He doesn't have any way to be able to do it. He's not going to be able to take a chomp out of this catfish. And Hayami is going to be there for the gank. So this is really bad right now for the side of Striking Vipers.
Oh my goodness. The worst part is, like, if Yasin wanted to poke his head into this jungle, as soon as Talia sees it, you'd think that, like, Talia's like, okay, they killed off topside. They probably took Krugs on second rotation. And he's thinking he's getting tier 3 Krugs, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah, check this out. They're laying out the damage here, trying to see what else they can do, but they didn't expect the Thresh to be over there on that side. Stevenator taking a heaping him out. The Ignite taken away. That's going to be Hayami finding the kill onto Stevenator. Now he's going to be able able to find Pyro over here onto the side as Jace will finish off the Nautilus at the sacrifice of his own life. Smite coming through onto the Dragon. Pyro just trying to live out here, but it is still going to be him getting taken down by the Thresh. Hayami smites the Dragon, gets the HP back, dashes in. The Crazy Goose will secure the kill for his team.
Wildcard is just winning everything right now. This is terrifying to look at. It's just every single play is coming in their fashion. They're forcing Ash's 5 kills up at this point in the game. It is going to be lethality Varus too, but like in the later stages when that poke is out and you have that to have to contest with, like now they could play front to back and just go for immediate engagement with Tahm Kench and Diana. And like you're never going to out DPS this Ashe now as the Varus. It's just way too hard to do that. Hayami, if you notice also, the greediest start to this game I've ever seen in my life is just a Magi's immediate. It was not even a Dark Seal to stack, man. Come on, Hayami. These people have families. Like give some respect over this team, at least a little bit here.
Nah, man. He's looking to lay out the pain, and he's looking to take everybody on the side of Striking Vipers on the pain train. Even though they may have pain, it is definitely a troublesome spot for them to be inside of at this current time, man. This is a rough moment for them, but they are looking to still see what they can
taken red buff.
It's getting taken right now.
Only just now. He has to think that second red buff though. He's like, oh, that second spawn red buff. This is the first red buff, man.
When can you say that you saw a red buff be taken at 7 minutes into the game?
For the first time, I don't know that I can actually say that. The good part is like Hayami also hasn't been farming like incredulously just because he's been focusing on a bunch of these plays. But again, Pyroin has just not accomplished that much in the earlier phases. Yes, you have like the Source Shoes, but it's not going to get you that much in the long term compared to everything else. Not knowing that those camps got him so little compared to everything else that can come about. The early kills are just that much more valuable for Hayami having that golden experience. So it's a tough way to begin this game here from the side of Striking Vipers Maestro. They do have lethality for their ADC, but that's about it. Top lane's not going horrible right now, but you're kind of grasping at those little bits right here because Wildcard's just been running things so far.
Yeah, and I think they have a great answer into like how to make sure this Talia isn't able to get off the ground. I think it's a core member of Striking Vipers here is this Talia.
Extremely, yeah.
It's all their early game aggression, but look at this. The early game control they got, it nets them a crystal arrow, and it nets them a kill here as they will be able to surely find it. He lasts for so long there, but over into the backside, Hayami gets a huge ult, is able to find another kill for his team. And that's just 2 kills off of that. The back of that. Oh, a solo kill happens top lane.
Oh, everywhere across the map, it's just happening all at once, Mr. Travis. It's impossible to track across everywhere. They go for a dive behind enemy lines by a substantial margin. They got 4 members there, and it's easy to play out with the Ashe arrow being available. Yasin positioned perfectly for it. They don't lose a member, and then there's just solo kills coming up on top side. At some point, like, it's going to be too much to deal with. It's 5K advantage this early into the game. 4K advantage, my apologies, that's going to come through as we get to see this. Again, I think this was really well played because they take control of this topside jungle really quickly just to make sure that the vision is there. And then Yasin's positioning, I think, was immaculate. Just running past the tower, setting up the lantern for the flash hook that ends up coming through off of Crazy Goosh's arrow.
Yeah, this is just beautiful. I mean, it is an impressive thing to see how long we got to see this Nautilus stay alive for.
Oh, yeah.
But it still had the same result at the end of it. So,
and the protection also, Ivano's movement was what saved, I think, right there, Hayami, because Hayami went very deep, like you said, got that amazing ultimate, but almost would have been traded, certainly, if Varus has had the ability to get another round of cooldowns up. But Ivano was able to bring down, I believe it was Vista in that particular regard, and so Pyroin was the only one left, didn't have the damage for it, so thankfully that's going to be the case. Yasin again, man.
Yasin is showing so much pressure here. It's not going to force any summoners out of Stevenator here, so no flash to burn at the current moment in time, but Stevenator is going to be fine. Crazy Goose left alone to his own devices in bot lane, and I think he's just fine, using the most broken ability for an AD carry to have, free vision.
I think Graves Smokescreen would have something to say about that.
I said AD carry.
Hey, he got played AD carry yesterday.
All right, listen, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to live in a world.
Oh, interestingly, you know who played him too? Minwee. You know who Minwee played for? Wildcard Developmental.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Wildcard Black.
I don't listen. Just bring back old Graves, and then I'll be fine with talking about it bot lane, okay?
That's fair. That's reasonable. I'm just saying that does exist. But,
It does.
Okay. The attempted counterplay, I'm really hard pressed to say that this is going to work out ever, because I think they
Seismic?
just have to engage, and they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pieces weren't together for that. That could actually have been really well coordinated if they were able to, like, coordinate the abilities there, but it felt like it was just very
That's
disjointed.
just immediate into Ivano. Goodness gracious.
Uh,
Okay, does this target? Okay.
Looking for the dive here. Stevenator's taking a good amount of damage here. Hayami, you may have bitten up a little bit more than you can chew. That's going to be Pyro. Finding the shutdown on the back end of that. Now he's going to look to turn his aggression over to Ivano as he's taking a heaping amount of damage from those Dark Harvests, and the Seismic Shove will get flashed away. So
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of an overstep coming out from the side of Wildcard.
I feel as though Wildcard is playing relatively greedy right now, pretty much across the board. Deservingly, they're playing well, don't get me wrong. But again, they are overstepping their bounds a little bit. That was one where, like, they definitely did not need to go on to Stevenator, especially into a Karma, something like that. They didn't really need to invest that kind of, because they knew the tower was going down. There was no turret aggro that was
Not
dropping
Pain.
on them. They just could have done anything. Is he just going to get run down? Use the stun. Look at that, man. Like, what do you do? Tom Kench, like the new Tom Kench top lane, especially with Titanic Hydra. Look at his health bar. He's at 2,000 health at level 9. He has like perma slows with his Q. Like, what are you supposed to do in this champion?
Like Volibear is just getting bullied so hard.
This is
here.
he's literally the counter bully. When Renekton was the #1 champion, he picked Volibear into it. Like, this is a different kind of lane bully. This is so not cool to deal with.
Is right now is just in a rough spot here. I would say that line applies for a lot of striking Vipers inside their lanes.
Would
at the current
you
moment
say
in
that
time.
they're in pain right now?
I would definitely. I would say they've been watching some Naruto recently because they will know pain as they've taken a lot of damage. Stevenator knows pain actually as it's Hayami that finds the kill as they're looking to pursue this on forward a little bit further. Hayami's going to take it a level beyond. Lay out a great ult, take in some damage and a beautiful lantern, but it's just not enough. The Ignite will tick away. Crazy Goose trying to fire away with these arrows, and it's going to be the Talia getting knocked away and taken out. Vista is over here on the side, does not have flash, has the cleanse available, but will not be Wildcard overstepping their bounds here. They will just back away. Maybe, oh no, never mind.
Well played.
A shutdown coming out for this Varus.
I'm just like floored right now. First off, like, I think Vista is playing well. I don't want to take that away from the side of striking Vipers Maestros, because Vista's actually playing quite nice. But right now it seems like Wildcard is just flexing individual skill pretty much across the map. Like, there's just nothing more to say about it. Like, every single fight is just mechanical advantage, it feels like, even though there are like counterplay to come through. Iso's just like poking him down with his tongue under tower. Is 3 even enough? Is 3 even going to do damage? Like,
I don't know if 3 can actually take
I don't think
him
3's
down.
enough.
Look how thick this catfish is. This catfish is looking to decimate. He
And
gets
he
a
gets
kill!
he's going to ult, or he's going to W my
He's
opponent.
try and make himself a way out of here. Hayami is here to be his back with the cavalry arriving in the nick of time. you spam that smug cat. You deserve it.
Mhm. Well, that was an amazing little play. The setup was there. Payne needed to just walk away. I know he wanted to be a part of the play, but like that is what cost them right there. And now even worse is like the re-engage from Hayami Yasin to control top side is going to be there. Iso could have TP top. I think still could if they wanted to push that top wave into top tower and pull that one off the board. They decided against it just so they could put pressure on somewhere else. Stevenator's without tower. Bottom lane is still somewhere they could find an advantage as well because like Gale Force is available, but at this point Yasin and Hayami are just capable of bullying anywhere they want on the map.
Yeah, they're looking to just take lunch money wherever they see fit here. Ooh, that was dangerous territory coming out from Pyro. As that jungle doesn't belong to him anymore.
No, it's not.
I would say it's probably safe to say it hasn't belonged to him ever, but JK, it's Hayami who finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time as he gets taken off the board here. But over in the bot side, wow, that was insanely close. Crazy Goose able to win out on the 1v1 though.
Yep. Lethality coming out from the Varus makes it easy to fight against people who are, of course, without armor. Payne is just feeling it right now. Here comes Yasin as well, because it's just going to be... Honestly, does Izo even need Yasin here? Like, I think it's just to force him away, but they didn't want him to leave. So, I think Izo would have been just comfortable. He's even just letting this tower deny minions at this point, which is, it's even more insane that Izo is just holding this much pressure in the top lane matchup up against the Bully Bear. It's so hard to try to fight against. This is so many different champions, but this is one that apparently works very well into that legs, as Izo just bullying this matchup so far.
I'm taking a little bit of free damage from these rocks getting thrown in his face. As you can see, Stevenator's looking to try and chase him down. Crazy Goose back over into the mid lane. The board is looking to try and get some advantages here, as Wildcard is now just coming back into their lanes here. As Striking Vipers looking to press the case for themselves, trying to get some vision around this dragon that will spawn in about 2 minutes.
Absolutely. It's a pretty powerful gold lead with 7,000 and 15 minutes into the game for the side of Wildcard, so it's something for sure. Yes. Striking Vipers, again, we run the fact that like their team's damage is kind of low. Talia and Varus are the two that we're looking at to do carrying. Talia is not doing well. Varus is doing kind of well, but again, with lethality, Varus, you're never going to burn through Izo in 100 years. So, like, Izo is just a threat the entire game. And then compare that with, like, again, you got poke from Crazy Goose and consistent damage from Crazy Goose that can work. And then, of course, Ivano, who's going to be probably even stronger than the Varus come the late game. I mean...
and look at this. Now, Stevenator is at that point where the Jace is just able to put out the damage. It's hammer time. Ivano finds a kill in the bot lane solo style. Oh, man. This is... I feel like Striking Vipers is just kind of falling in terms of damage across the board, and all they really got right now is the Varus.
Yeah, they don't have damage to set up. They don't have, their engagement is mostly off the back of Zoomin, who's not that powerful.
Pyro gets caught out of position. Enchanted Arrow is going to be able to connect, and they're going to be able to have this Tahm Kench go in. Find a double kill for the Ashe, and Izo is going to be able to get out just fine.
Absurd knockup right there with the new W that's coming out. That's something special for the Tahm Kench, especially when you got an Ashe to set it up. It's so simple with that ultimate, with those slows coming out from that champion, for Tahm Kench to be able to find the perfect knockup as it takes a second to charge up, and this is a good combination. Now also with the Frostfire alongside this Titanic Hydra, getting away from this Tahm Kench is going to be pretty much impossible. So I'm in dire struggles right now to see how it is. Like, if he wanted to play this out very long, Wildcard would win eventually in terms of scaling, but they're already up 10,000 gold at 17 minutes into the game. They're controlling most of the objectives across the map. I do want to see some semblance of like a really big victory here from Wildcard all at once to get them a really big advantage. Something like Baron here in about 2 minutes, or pushing into the base potentially off the back of like a 3-4 person like kill and a big team fight sweep, because at this point they have the capabilities of ending the game very quickly off the back of a nicely played fight. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, if you look at the gold lead, right, they've been able to grab 4 towers for themselves. We wanted to be able to see them, grab a little bit more for themselves, because this is, like you said, this 10K at this current moment in time. They are in a very comfortable position, and you can even see they kind of got themselves out of their own head here. They're not playing as I would say overly confident, I guess is the word to say here with it. They're playing it more steady, playing it to their strengths. But you can see they're still looking to be aggressive, which you love to see here as the Rift Herald getting dropped down here in the bot side.
That it is. They should be able to push through this relatively easily. You see also the Demolish stack on the tower made it super easy for Izo with the Rift Herald to just shove through that. Now they got Crazy Goose too. Yasin's hovering. They've got 2 defending. Can they kill off the Rift Herald before it gets the charge? Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So just more damage onto this bottom inhibitor tower as Dragon gets taken. Wildcard running things. It's at this point, it feels like a stalling game from Striking Vipers Maestros, only because, again, when you think about what the scaling happens in this game from both the teams, it's pretty clear that one of these teams has the advantage, and it's not the team with the 10,000 gold deficit, that's for sure. So,
that is very fair here, as we do see the wall getting put down. Wow. But who's trapped with who? As the damage comes through, Nautilus is going to be the first person to fall. Talia looking for a flank, but is just truly caught out of position as an Abyssal Voyage coming in, and everybody is invited. Stevenator is going to find himself going down. That's a triple kill to Ivano, as it is going to be getting the kill to go onto a killing spree for themselves. This should be the mid inhibitor to fall, and look to press on a little bit, but these HP bars are not looking too healthy. They are going to look for this.
Okay, they've got plenty of damage to work with. Like you said, the health bars are low, but they still have 10 or so seconds before everyone starts coming back up. Okay, they commit to just one and not the other. It's really easy for this team to try to just reset and then immediately come back to Baron, take that Baron in, and rush right back into the base. I think that's easily accessible here from this squad, and I'd like to see them do it because, again, at 20 minutes, having this big of an advantage at 15k is just way too much. Jace is obscenely fed. Ashe has gotten to the point where she's obscenely fed. Hayami has the defensive tool with the stopwatch alongside everything else to really push the advantage on the engage. And again, how are you killing ISO? Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. It simply will not. I think this is where kill shot needs to be delivered. Wildcard Developmental sets up for this Baron play, ends up walking it down mid lane, and Maestros come back for game number 2, kind of come up with a game plan for how it is that they want to play. Looks like we ran into a pause or so.
Looks like we have a little bit of a pause here. So see what exactly the issue may be here and see what they're going to be able to have and see what the result was going to be able to do. So yeah, it's going to be one of those things. And I understand that my my audio is a little bit desynced from my video. Don't know why that's happening, but we are. I mean, I feel like this is a game that's very confidently in favor of Wildcard, without a doubt. Like you said, they could just take Baron. They could probably just pick a fight at any point in time if anybody's scattered and find a win. This is actually a pretty astronomical lead in favor of Wildcard.
Yeah, it's not just a lead, and I wouldn't even say that they're favored in this game. I would say it's probably just their game, to be quite honest. Like, this early of an advantage with this hard of a scaling composition into a team that's been denied everything that they need, especially the jungler, where like this Talia was like the lich pin of everything they were working for, and they couldn't make it work on the bottom side as fast as possible. It seems like I said, Maestros are stalling for time, but that's about all that they're getting right now. So I think it's about doubling back and saying, okay, what will we work on for game number 2? Obviously, the early game struggles of the jungle into the bottom side of the map was tough to deal with. I don't think it was the only problem that has plagued them throughout, because they have just been kind of beaten down mechanically. And if you're going to do that, if that's going to happen, you have to understand that like this is a very solid wildcard roster that you're playing up against. So to me, what it means is that you have to generate like outnumbers. 2 ways to do that is like proper teleport usage and proper just like priority of midwave makes it so easy to move members into like the river to be able to find fights and stuff faster than your enemies will. And globals is the other one, whether or not they have globals that are capable of using on either on the side of striking vipers, maybe to try to generate some of these exact same plays where you have multiple members or multiple tools being used that just are unrespondable. But again, this first game has not looked very promising for the prospects of game number 2.
Yeah, it's not at the current moment in time. We'll have to see exactly what that will be. As waiting to see exactly any further news on the pause, see exactly what may be happening that's going to happen, it's going in here. As hopefully it will be just some tech issues that will get fixed very shortly here, because this is honestly probably one of the most awkward places to have a pause at, just because of the fact that like one team is just so commanding inside the lead, and now Striking Vipers are kind of in a weird situation. But we are going back into game here. So ladies and gentlemen, we are back in here, and yeah, we're back to where it was. And this is still a very, very scary scenario to be in.
Yes, and again, you're seeing pings on the Baron right now. It's nearly completed Infinity Edge. It is a 3-item Jace. At this point, Night Harvester just got completed on Hayami. There is a massive health bar on the likes of this Tom Kench, probably nearing... He's actually over 3,000 health at this point, so, like, this is way too easy to take. Like, if you put Izo in this pit right now, it would be all too easy to just be like, okay, you're going to soak and everybody else is going to put in damage and that's going to be it. They are going to do some diligence here on the side of Wildcard and just push back vision a little bit. I think once Yasin has this sweeper, but for the moment, they're just kind of pushing at mid-wave, even though it's pushing naturally. They're having Ivana work his way up top lane just to make sure these waves are pushed. They're doing proper setup. They're giving some respect. I do like this. Again, earlier on, they weren't giving a lot of respect. Notice that Hayami, my apologies, has sold off the Magi's that he bought first item. I do respect that has been sold. They are giving the necessary respect to the side of Maestros that it's deserved, even though they are currently sitting up about 13,000 gold. Ivana's now joining the team. It's over half health Baron. I don't think a fight here is going to do anything, as Stevenator and Pyroan are both just dead immediately in this fight.
Yeah, and you can see the engagement coming into laying in so much damage over here onto the side. It is going to be the Nautilus getting taken off the board right out the get-go. You do find another kill coming on through. Vista is on a death row here. As you can see, Ozza just coming in, flanking around. They get pincered, they get removed, and it's going to be them getting the triple kill for the side of Wildcard, and that is going to be the game as Tom Kench just TP'd into the base. He was done with the team fight. He said, I'm taking the Nexus.
Izo was already here. He was ready to go as soon as possible just to make sure that this game was going to get cleaned up. They could have committed to Baron if they wanted to. They decided against it. Izo's going to kill... Oh, never mind. I thought he was going to kill his top laner, but thankfully Ivano knows to dodge at the last second. And it wraps up a very rough early game from the side of the Maestros. I know they're happy to get out of that one, come back at game 2 with a lot different of an angle. But man, Wildcard looked really good. Their players extremely solid across the board. Even their substitute Hayami came in with the confidence of the Magi's, obviously had himself a solid performance. So firing on all cylinders, it seems like today from the side of Wildcard.
Yeah, I would say Wildcard looking pretty strong. Got a little bit overconfident in the mid game. Definitely some things that they'll probably revisit when they get prepped to go for game number 2 here. But yeah, I think that was a very good game coming out from Wildcard where they just got to send a statement, and now it's on Striking Vipers to take this information and try to adapt for game number 2 here, which is going to be very interesting to see here, Rebel.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to work on here from the Maestros. They are down. The expectation is, of course, this is the number 1 team in the group from Wildcard. Taking this would secure them number 1 spot, just like outright coming out of this like early first half of the split type thing. And so this is Striking Vipers' chance to maybe try to tie up the standings and just go like 1-1-1 inside of this initial group, since their third team has not been playing and got forfeit for the most part. But if Wildcard takes it, it is a very definitive group. And so far, it looks like it's Wildcard's group to run for the most part. So now we'll see if the Maestros can actually take them to game 3, challenge for that kind of thing, and in general, just try to take this to a further series to get more experience.
Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take ourselves a short break. When we come back, we're going to be hitting up our desk for them to give us the secrets to how Striking Vipers are going to be able to come back here into game number 2 and how exactly that game played out. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.
There are 4 things that I know exist within League of Legends: jungle pathing, drafting. You know what? I can't remember the other 2, but it doesn't matter because I didn't see any of them in this game today. Welcome back to the desk, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ravshik. I'm joined here by Destructs, and of course, Miko. Gentlemen, let's talk about what we just experienced today. What I felt in my chest should not have been felt for quite some time. It's as though I was falling in love and getting my heart broken at the same time. Confusing and distraught. So Eric, starting off with you, man. Just give me your thoughts. Like, what did you experience?
I experienced not as much League of Legends as I thought I was going to experience, considering I've been watching it for the last 25 minutes. I don't know what to say. Striking Vipers got murdered. It all started off with draft, but I think Miko could take that away more than anyone else with what we saw from Striking Vipers.
Okay, there you go. I had audio problems for the entire time. Anyway, TLDR is that you don't pick Karma with Talia. You just don't do that. There's multiple reasons why you can't do that. One is the fact that both if you rush Merctress as a mid laner, then you take 0 damage from both of them whatsoever. Gank pressure, which is something that you should expect with the Karma lane because you have to tether. If the Jace is tethered, then you could land a really secure Talia W, which is in theory the way that it should have worked, which never happened in this game, by the way. And then another thing is that Karma as a champion naturally falls off because she's supposed to build Shirley as a mythic, which is not an AP damage item in the slightest. And you need a consistent source of AD damage that is supposed to supplement that, which was nowhere to be found in the entirety of the Vipers team comp. And that's the main reason why I thought that they had a major disadvantage going into this game.
But I feel like it's so, like you mentioned, look, going into the game, yeah, there were a lot of question marks already around the drafted composition. But I find, Wildcard as well, there were some question marks there too. But because going back to you on this, like, what allowed them to simply just run them over, which I'm putting lightly, by the way, within the first, I would say, 120 seconds?
Yeah, it was really early on. I mean, Puro, and I'm trying to make sure I'm saying his name right, had some of the most shakiest early jungle decisions I think I've seen. We were freaking out when we saw him go bot lane right away, and no setup for the seismic shove as well. It was just him dying for first blood. What does he do? 3 minutes, 40 seconds, comes back, decides, I'm going to take a death sentence this time and die again. Later on, 10 minutes in, we're still watching these plays from Puro and being like, why are they set up this way? Why is he so focused on the bot lane, and why is there no setup for that as well?
And the worst part about that entire thing is that there was no setup from any of the laners at all either. When the fact that you have a champion that Zoomer had, is piloting Nautilus, that is able to flash and then immediately just root one person by auto attacking them, then you should actually try to do that for your jungle. Top side and the camps are already gone to start with. So when you are in a situation where you died again and that you're going to the scene of crime once more, you're potentially risking 3 to 4 camp loss for making that play. And even if it works out, and then you have to kill both of them and then get potential turret plates to even think about calling it even on the perspective of the jungler. And neither of that happened. And when you fail twice in this game, it's very unforgiving. You just lose. You don't have an option.
I mean, unforgiving, I find, was honestly an understatement too with what Striking Vipers went through. Because like you guys were saying, honestly, a lot of the game was decided right in the beginning. To me, it was a game of question marks and alert pings as to what was transpiring and what ended up transpiring by the end of it. And on the side of Wildcard, though, It sounded like they were having a blast. Like, these guys were going for kills that they probably didn't need to, but they still got them anyways because why not, right? And then they just continued to extend their lead consistently with every single play they made. Tom Kent's top. What?
This play, that hook from Zoomin hurt me so much, but what hurt me more is the fact that Iso not only gets the kill, he gets the hell out of there as well.
And the craziest part of this is that it's not even his first kill. He got a solo kill onto the Volibear not even 5 minutes ago, and he continues to do this. In fact, he also popped in mid lane about 5 minutes after that and got a double kill under tower with the help of the Ashe and still gets out alive. Wildcard just seemed to have the game on a chokehold, but they were laughing around with it as if it was a child, like, haha, you can't escape. We're going to take you no matter where we want to, and you can do nothing about it. Terrifying but hilarious thought by the end of it. And if I'm looking at SVP right now, I hope they're able to change a lot going in the next game. I hope they're able to shake things off, splash some water onto their faces and go forward with the thought that maybe the game was a little bit rough, maybe it's a warm-up game. Going into the next, we do want to see some more diversity in the composition and safer gameplay and smarter jungle pathing. Please. Hopefully we can see all of that. We can see, and I have to pass it off to our casters yet again, Travesty and Rebel Fox, to show us the results. Please.
2-0, man. 2-0. It's done.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UPL. We are getting ready to go into game number 2. Shoutouts to our guest for being fantastic. As always, I'm Travesty. I am joined here with Rebel. And Rebel, game number 1, very dominant from one half. Game number 2, had to see how Striking Vipers look to strike back into the game.
Hopefully better, I think, decision making for their jungler to begin the game. If they want to try this strategy where you're just like ganking bot lane, that's okay, but they have set up for it, and then the rest of it goes through too. That level 2 gank did not work. That's upsetting. Don't double down into it. Don't triple down into it. Set up your jungler. Make sure that he's able to actually get out and about on the map, as that seems to be the game plan here. I liked the idea of having lanes that support the jungler and then just having your jungler be the primary carry. But if you're going to lean into that, make sure that your jungler is actually accomplishing things, because otherwise you get run over completely.
I think we saw Mika made a really good point on the desk where he's just like, don't draft Talia Karma. I was like, yes, that was my point. That was my frustration.
Double AP, double weak AP. It's not the move.
It's not, and there's just so many more higher impact mid laners to play. I feel like if you're gonna play Karma, you need to play something. You gotta have some sort of carry threat in one of your side lanes too. I'm hoping that they learn from the mistakes that they had inside of game number 1, because I wasn't too much of a fan of the trap ball. On the other side, I want to see if Tom Kench gets to it.
I think Tom Kench's priority might shoot through the roof here for Pain, just to make sure he doesn't have to go through that again from Iso, because that obviously is something that was really good for Iso and that Pain would have wanted to get his hands on. So it's at least that. I wonder if Zoomin could take it too, and maybe they could flex it, because I don't know how much Zoomin is actually put into the champion, but definitely it could work in the support role. I've seen that before as well, but higher priority on some of the comfort stuff, man, because again, Stevenator didn't look great on the Karma, even though it's a Karma and you could do regular things, that's perfectly fine. It didn't accomplish what it wanted to. I would like to see Stevenator on comfort, Pain on more comfortable stuff, that kind of thing, just to make sure that they're playing into a team who obviously has a bunch of skill. Best way to try to combat that, not only is it putting your pieces together faster, but also having comfort just makes you play better most of the time. There's a reason why one tricks, when they're on their one trick, look ridiculously better than normal.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people sleep on comfort, actually, because a lot of people will look at competitive and be like, oh, well, if you look at the win rates, well, let me tell you about this pick that's just absolutely dominating. It's just like, no, sometimes you just want to play what you're actually comfortable with and actually rock out with it. You know the matchups, you know how to rock out a win with it. Go for that. So I do hope to see that approach. I do like these bans that are coming out, especially the Diana ban. It's Hayami was a early game monster on it, but it was more so the mind games, I feel like.
Yeah, providing Xin Zhao, though, is... first off, if you're giving Xin Zhao, that means, I think, even worse pressure, or I guess better pressure in this particular case, worse pressure here from the side of Striking Vipers, because Hayami can just do what he wants now. And even worse than that is that if you want your jungler to be the primary carry for Pyro in, if you're going for something like anything like that, then you would have the likes of Talia in your back pocket. This would be something that could aggress against it. But we go for a counter that I've seen popping up quite a few times in the Trundle.
It's so good! It's
It is. It's really good.
I love it! And seeing it come out here is phenomenal to see, as well as the Ashe gives actually quite a bit of supportability they go for it. But no, Callista, I like this a lot better. This is a lane dominant. You can be lane dominant. You can take care of neutral objectives very effectively. I like it, but you're leaving Ashe open and you're leaving the Thresh open.
Thresh open, yes. You are giving up quite a bit. Now, I don't know if there's discussion, so I'm not going to say that there's discussion, but I know, at least within my own mind, there's this conflict between the two of these champions, right? Where, like, in theory, Ashe is good into Callista because the auto attacks slow her movement, she can't hop as much, she can't auto attack as much, and it's painful in that regard. But I've seen the opposite also be true, where because Ashe is so immobile, if you're throwing something aggressive into her and she can't auto attack you or focus on slowing you down and your support can't do anything to support off the back of all this aggression that Callista brings, it's a lane that Callista can absolutely win, and that's the pairing that I've been wanting to see teams pick up for so long. Turk is giving a buff so many times ever since that like detachment from the Master Yi. He's just like finally buffs are coming in for this champion, and it was already pretty good, and now we get to see it paired with one of the best champions to put it with in this Callista.
Man, I'm a simple man. I see Tarek, I unbutton the shirt. Let's get it. I'm ready to see exactly what we got coming up here as man, Tarek is very exciting. Like you said, it's something that has seen a lot of buffs over onto the side, but you know something that we're not going to see in this game? The Kench has been benched.
Mm-hmm. It's an unfortunate side effect, I think, of what happened in the previous game. Now, I am really surprised they don't just, like, pick it for Pain. He's played it, like, he knows how to play it. He's played it in the top lane, he just got it played against him. Like, there's no way that, like, it isn't workable in the top lane, so they're just denying ISO picks now. They do leave up the Scion and the Ornn, both of which who have popped into the meta and be capable of being played on the top side, that ISO would definitely have his eyes on, in particular in these top lane matchups up against the likes of the Striking Vipers here. But the good thing is Trundle is good into those kind of front-liney tank-type champions where you're building a bunch of armor matches, that kind of thing, because of Trundle's ability to read stats and things like that. So Iso's champion pool of being primarily tanks is counteracted a little bit by this Trundle pick.
I'm curious if what we are going to see. I feel like a Scion makes sense too, right? Like if he is going to play a tank, let's play the biggest beefcake of them all in the Scion, but could be interesting to see. Striking Viper's currently hovering the Corki here. I like that a lot better. I actually do like Orianna. I don't really have a ball delivery service, but hey, Stephen A. looking to pop onto Old Faithful.
Absolutely. Pairs well with like a bunch of the engage that's going to come in from the likes of the Callista and the Tarek combination. I do have the problem that Orianna takes a minute to get into the game, so if you go for very high priority mid lane here, it is going to be easy enough to work with. And Iso is perfectly perfectly fine taking the Volibear matchup here, because it's like, you're going to wait for counter pick here for Pain, unless they're taking Trundle into top for a number of reasons. I've seen it top lane a couple of times. But for the most part, this Volibear going top is going to be big. Is that Zed hover for the Orianna matchup?
Is it locking in? Lock it in, you coward!
I like it better.
Okay, this is a better matchup. Okay, that's ooh,
even better.
Even better. How does it keep getting better?
We went from Zed to Yone to Aurelion Sol. This got played, I think, by Alvano in just the previous week. As you think, like, okay, right now what you've got is, like, decently strong bot lane because of all the aggression that can come out from Callista, especially post-level 6. Earlier on, like, the Ashe and the Thresh should be perfectly fine into that matchup. Top lane gets the counter pick. You're going Mundo into the likes of the Volibear just for some, like, health tank and things like that. What you've got now with this mid lane is this Aurelion Sol that can perma-roam and attack lanes super quickly with an already dominant jungle matchup between the two of them. While yes, the immediate engagement between like the likes of the Trundle and the likes of the Xin Zhao is going to be probably favoring the Trundle, that's why you pick this. The combination of Xin Zhao and Aurelion Sol into lanes is going to be unbearable for the side of Striking Vipers here.
I personally, like, to explain to everybody at home, the reason why me and Rebel are also hype about Aurelion Sol is because it's somebody who locked in the champion, is somebody who plays it, right? Like, if this is somebody who is just a random person off the street, Aurelion Sol, bleh, it's not going to be as fun to watch. But we are getting to see somebody who is experienced on the champion, who knows the inner workings of it, And that is what makes Aurelion so exciting in this, because if you see like people who are just picking up the champion, it is the most boring champion to watch in the mid lane. Like, there are so many other champions I would rather watch. I would rather watch Yuumi play mid lane than to watch an Aurelion Sol be played by somebody who doesn't like have any mastery over it. But here we are. We got the Aurelion Sol. I want to also go ahead and take a moment to highlight over onto the other side, the Mundo getting played. It is that new Mundo, of course, and I'm excited because I feel like it could be a little bit of a redemption arc, because unfortunately let's just go ahead and call it what it was. He got annihilated in topside there against what is his most played champion currently. And then it just turns into a weird fiasco. So now it's time for him to have some redemption.
I do have some curiosity if there is to be shenanigans between the Mundo and the likes of this Trundle, only because now that you saw the Volibear, if it's like, okay, I like Trundle into this for whatever reason that it might be, that would come about, then you can't play Mundo in the jungle because of the most recent buffs that have come through to it, because you get like all of your health back when your cleavers hit monsters, things like that. You have a little bit more clear speed, I'm pretty sure, off the back of something getting buffed. It doesn't come to mind exactly what that buff was off the top of my head, but Mundo has been put into that jungle position in a couple of different places in competitive play, so that's another possibility. It slows down the Xin Zhao matchup because Trundle's better at just like fighting the Xin Zhao, but Mundo is hard to bring down as Xin Zhao, and I think it gives you a better top lane matchup up against the Aurelion Sol combination into that top lane that you're going to be worried about. So there is at least that to consider. We'll get a chance to see it now. It's not going to end up being that. They are just going to have the standard matchup. So hopefully they could try to keep this Aurelion Sol isolated into the mid lane as much as possible, just to make sure that Pyroen can challenge against Xin Zhao as much as possible.
Yeah, I want to see what they'll be able to do to negate the Aurelion Sol and see what they'll be able to do. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going into game number 2 here. Wildcard have the lead so far inside this series, and got a little bit of spice to back up everything that they're working with here as we get the zoom in. I like this look on the Aurelion Sol, the nice the reverse frosted tips here.
The reverse frosted tips of the pink chroma of Storm Dragon, which is really, really cool. The Aoshin skin, if you will, coming out from this. It's so long since I've seen like an Aurelion Sol player. The last one inside of Amateur or anything like that we had was APA, and APA hasn't played it as much because his champion pool has widened quite a bit. Still pulls it out every once in a while, but now Ivano might become our new fresh blood Aurelion Sol player, which I could be very, very hyped for. Champions getting nerfed somehow. I understand high win rate, but like there's plenty of champions that need those nerfs first, at least in my opinion. But here we are, where Aurelion Sol is pulling nerfs, and champions like Gwen exist.
With an insanely just small dedicated play base, right?
Yeah, super small dedicated player base receiving a nerf because of how strong it is. Pretty much just in general, apparently. The playstyle, I think, is what makes it really lethal, because not a lot of people expect this kind of perma-roaming style that like Aurelion Sol players do tend to take up the mantle of really consistently, that hopefully Ivano can take. Also, just permanently pushing out of mid lane with your stars ambiently, especially into like melee matchups, does make it a little bit difficult to try to manage and things of that sort. So there's that to consider as well. But for this game, you have Aurelion into Orianna eventually, or I believe that the Aurelion Sol should be perfectly fine into the Orianna, pushing constantly, being able to harass with stars. All you have to do is avoid like the ball trading damage and auto attack trades coming up from the Orianna when she gets inside your stars.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of aggression actually coming out here. The Ignite was used, volley tags, and it will be damage being traded. Support 2 marksmen here, and that was very dicey.
That it was. Saw trades back and forth between the two. This is early level 2 here from the likes of Crazy Goose and Yasin, so it has to be very, very heavily careful from the likes of the Callista and the Taric to begin with. Again, early on, these slows are really terrible to have to deal with if you're the likes of the Callista, and being double ranged into melee, like the Taric does make this lane a little bit harder. At 6, when this does, like the ultimate comes in, the challenges can start to come in. Lane looks a little bit better once W's and Q's are up for Taric, and you can auto attack, things like that for that advantage as well to recover some of the health from the poke. That's going to make your life easier as well. But this priority that they pulled from Crazy Goose and Yasin has led to a blue buff invade.
Yeah, and it's a very successful one at that. He has been tracked, and the troll is looking to be slain here. Beautiful flash over the wall, and will be able to survive, but the blue buff is still going to be claimed by Hayami.
Not it will. Smited for health alone from the side of Pyroan, which I think was really good because it was a situation where, like, you probably, if you fight specifically for the blue buff, you almost certainly lose your life in exchange for it. So it's like, do I want blue and lose my life, or do I want to give the blue and then just, like, leave and not die again in this earlier stage of the game? And Pyroan makes the correct choice of making sure to go down in exchange for that. Thinks his Gromp is down as well, so kind of just, like, meandering right now on the map looking for something.
Yeah.
It's tough. Even worse is, like, he's not sure whether his Gromp was taken, but then he's also not sure whether topside is going to get aggressed against instead, and his Gromp was up. And he says it's more likely that Hayami's going to cross map and immediately go, or they would have seen him somewhere potentially on the map. Maybe it was through mid lane. I didn't actually see where they would have caught him. But that means that Pyroan knows at least one of these camps is up, and he's able to take one, thankfully, instead of not taking either, going for a back or something. But unfortunate, he's going to lose the double scuttle and get 3 buffed here.
Man, I was about to celebrate the fact that he got his red buff so early, but he gets his red buff early, he loses the blue buff later. It's the curse of Pyroan, as seeing how everything else is kind of going across the map. I mean, everything else in the map is looking pretty fine across the board, I would say. I don't say anybody else besides the jungle has really been able to find a convincing advantage just quite yet, even though you can see the Ash Threshes making their presence known at the current moment.
This is definitely not what it was a second ago. Nice play from Yasin. I was hoping a hook could come in maybe to find... Ooh, splits the difference right there and not able to find anything else between any of those. The junglers do have a little bit of advantage here for the side of Hayami over top of Pyroan. But again, this matchup is not one that can be super hard pushed by Hayami without a bunch of presence to start with. So until we see Ivano really start to make moves across the map, I think this game is going to be a little bit lackluster when it comes to just the action department. So we're in for a bit of an early game. Of course, that is if Izo decides to start bullying, or until he decides to start bullying the Mundo inside the laning phase and turn on that solo kill pressure like we saw in game number 1.
I mean, does have that press the attack, right? Like, if you are looking to put on some aggression, smacking up the Mundo seems like a good option. He will take the pain for sure, as it is a Bramble Vest buy coming out from the Mundo, as he did just finish up his reset here. And across the board, not seeing anything too terribly crazy here. Yet again, though, yet another flash flay, but Death Sentence does not connect, forces the flash away from Stevenator.
Yasin still pulling advantage, though, at least getting something out of the mid lane, where now Orianna has real fear that you're just getting run down by the likes of this Aurelion Soul. Because now without Flash, dodging that Q and dodging those stars is going to be so much harder. So the trade damage that's available for Ivano is just going to be immaculate to think about. You'll see Electrocute proc right there drop Stevenator pretty low. Thankfully, again, the ball trades are enough to keep Ivano pushed back at least a little bit because of the range that Orianna's got. But again, without Flash, an all-in potential from Ivano is a very real possibility that has to be considered by Stevenator. So, and no TP also means that, like, if you're losing waves and things, there's a lot to sacrifice. So at this point, I think that is the breaking now. War Ivano outside of the mid lane to come back with a big Q, push this wave back out from Stevenator, and really start to look for some of these side lane roams that you've been waiting on.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't been able to see it just yet. And you can see here, the Xin Zhao hasn't really been able to get anything too crazy aggressive since that one little bit of tracking that they did on the Trundle inside the jungle. So we have to keep our eyes on this, as this is I feel like something Wildcard definitely has been wanting, but I like this coming out from the side of Striking Vipers in the bot side. This hotshot's not going to give you anything but where he's not.
I like this a bit more at level 6, just because you have the guaranteed engage. I thought maybe the roaming from Yasin was going to punish him in terms of levels compared to Zoomin, but actually was ahead of Zoomin at some point. Now Hayami finds the gank topside.
Yeah, they're looking for more. Disable the tower, but Pain is just going to heal through it all. I mean, they're not able to find the advantage there because they just didn't have the damage to be able to finish it off. While over here into the bot side, we're seeing some more aggression coming on over. Damage coming through. Random Asundered. First blood to Vista.
Very well played right there. Able to finally find a way into this lane is Pyroan, where they're trying to set up this push to maybe go for a dive eventually to come out, and they're able to find it as Stevenator and Ivano are trading back and forth.
Beautiful! It is going to have to force a flash ult out of Ivano here in the mid lane. That is some aggression that everybody was looking to see from Stevenator. Striking Vipers, they're striking back already here.
That they are. The pressure in the top side doesn't mean as much because, again, when that canister gets dropped, denying the first initial bit of engage coming out, you don't have too much else. The ultimate pop by Pain means it's really difficult to have the Gango or the Mundo brought down anytime ganked by the side of Hayami. And yes, you do get Rift Herald in exchange for a lot of bottom side play. But again, it's a really nice way to begin the laning phase. Kalista pulls that kill. You have the flash traded onto Ivano. Now Stevenator's going to have it back up where you think the Aurelion Soul really desperately needs to get the lane priority here at the beginning of the game to find those aggressive movements, but have really been locked into the laning phase. Got to give props to Stevenator keeping Aurelion Soul stuck and everybody else for absorbing and giving pressure across the map. Ooh. Striking Viper's looking much better.
Yeah, and I do least favorite instrument right now, ukulele. Not appreciating that instrument hitting him upside the head, but yes, is looking for is going to be able to get a nice position on the death sentence. Will connect, lightning comes down, but it will not secure the kill. It will only secure the flash.
That is the second full gank that has been really good into Pain, that has just been completely absorbed because of Mundo and his ability to get out. That time it was due to the flash, so not going to have that tool available again in case that comes through. Look at the damage that gets traded onto Ivano as he's trying to put pressure into the wave and
shockwave.
That's a shockwave. Just that simple. It's really tough. Again, positioning on this Aurelion Soul into the Orianna with the ball when you have that shockwave available is so difficult to try to manage for Ivano, who's really struggling with trying to find this exact way to shove this wave so that Stevenator can't do anything. But all that it's been is Stevenator just dominating this laning phase.
Here we go, Fate's call, and hey, look, nice gank Hayami. Nice attempt to try and catch out Tarek here. Not going to be finding that now. But yeah, man, I mean, this is struggle Wildcard's composition right now is their early game. They're not actually able to transition into anything that can possibly be meaningful right now. And the matchups that Striking Vipers got are working out just fine at negating a lot of what Wildcard's looking to go for here. As you see Crazy Goose firing off another hot shot, will catch out Vision on the bot lane, and Striking Vipers looking to roam, but it's still just very, very good coming out from them. Very impressed with how Striking Vipers have adapted here into game number 2.
It is. They've got some good scaling in their side with Orianna, and then like all the engage that comes out from Kalista, Tarek, and Mundo make really good frontline walls that Ashe is going to have to rip through at some point. So there's plenty to talk about in that regard.
Well, looks like we had a bit of a tech difficulty moment there. So we will be looking to get that one sorted on out. As I feel like it may have been like an error where they were looking through the script and it was just like the Aurelion Soul gets solo killed in lane, and they were just like, wait a second, hold on, flip the script. We weren't supposed to air that right there. It was supposed to be different. But yeah, no, I honestly, still, I want to sing the praises of Striking Vipers because I feel like this is a squad. I believe our analyst desk actually did 2-0 across the board in favor of Wildcard, which I feel like, Striking Vipers definitely the underdog in the story here, but definitely showing some very, very big improvement and really showing some adaptation going into the series and really showing some true grit.
They are. The biggest thing is that they've done an amazing job shutting down not only mid lane for like Ivano on this Aurelion Soul, but also the aggression that's come out from Hayami, who is a very experienced jungler who knows how to play the map and things like this, just is not getting a ton done on this Xin Zhao at the moment as well. So like the attacking of the map so far has been really weak from the side of Wildcard. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is that not only is it strike backs in that regard, but also denying a bunch of the early pressure. It's not going to prevent the game from getting flipped, but it is at least giving you some gold to work with here on the side of Striking Vipers. So their improvement is they're not giving over plays a bunch. They're defending against a lot of the pressure that's being put onto them. And because of that, like these very minute advantages will begin to stack up slowly over the course of time. Their team fight is something they can rely on. I don't think it's perfect, but it is at least something that maybe they can bank on later with like the Orianna, with the engagement coming out. The Tarek ultimate is humongous for that regard. And difficult to bring down like Trundle and Mundo as just the Ashe inside of this composition. So there is all that's stacking into the favor from the side of Striking Vipers. So we'll have to see whether or not there's conversion to be had for Wildcard as to whether like Aurelion and Xin Zhao can really start to put on anything in terms of pressure across the map.
And I feel like the question is, like, how does Wildcard find themselves in a good spot like that, right? Like you were talking about it earlier, there's definitely players with experience here, and we're seeing a lot of things that are from the side of Wildcard that they're not able to do, right? No solo kill on the top side. We don't see the control coming out. We got to see a little glimpse of it at the very beginning, but it kind of just halted and they let the Trundle do as it wants to. And I think that's actually the scariest thing, because Striking Vipers definitely have the more easier to execute composition for themselves too. I feel like you look at their composition and it's a lot of champions that are pretty good off, especially once you hit into the mid game where you're looking at these team fights and they're not in a deficit in the early game. So honestly, Striking Vipers looking like somebody who could come out on top inside this game. As we're looking to see exactly what is going to happen inside this game. I personally am very excited because if it continues on forward, Striking Vipers could be looking at a situation where they take this to another game.
That would be nice to see a full 3-game series here and the comeback, I guess, from Striking Vipers after what was a disastrous game number 1. I will say their composition does seem at least a little reliant on ultimates when you think about like what Taric ultimate does for a fight, what Kalista ultimate does for a fight, what Shockwave does for a fight. These are all really impactful, and misuse of them, even like Mundo ultimate and Trundle ultimate make so much impact because it gives you a bunch more frontline, gives you a bunch more sustain to work with, a lot more like flat stats and things. So when these ultimates are used and not used effectively, fights can start to flip, only because, again, those are tools that are necessary for these champions to have a bunch of impact. So like that initial kind of ultimate rotation that's going to come through is something to pay attention to from the side of Striking Vipers, because if you lose that or lose even 2 or 3 of these big ultimates, maybe that's a sway back for the side of Wildcard, as they, I don't believe, are as reliant as what we had seen before. So there's that to consider as well. But again, they're playing well right now. It's pretty easy, like you said, to execute on when it comes to what they have, as I believe we missed a little bit of what happened here.
So to give everybody a heads up, there were some technical difficulties, but here we go. We got some fighting going under the tower, and it's not exactly what they wanted, as it is going to be the Cop Volibear coming in hot pursuit. He's going to tear apart Vista, and it's going to be now just the lifeguard himself with no buoy to be able to save him, as he will go down. 3 kills in quick succession over the Wildcard.
There was a handful of kills that came into the bottom side, as you see a couple of those deaths had been through as well. So big props being able to find. Now Ivano actually puts on so much damage to Pain right here with these stars. Has to be careful, but the canister's off, so if another Q comes up, there is that possibility of using it, trading. Thankfully, Pain's going to get out. Ultimate's going to put him in danger, though.
Yeah, he's looking to chase down this dragon, and he's hunting him down. Pain finds his solo kill on the Aurelian Soul on the top side.
Definitely Ivano's fault. After that initial Q dropping the canister and getting half of the health bar, I think you're just done right then and right there, because this champion can always turn on you with the amount of health that you've got. You don't do that much damage as Aurelion Soul, especially this early into the game. So it's just not going to happen after that electric Q goes off. And especially into a Mundo, like all the champions to work that with. Still, Wildcard Developmental have swapped the game back into their favor at least a little bit. They've got themselves the gold advantage. They found 5 kills across the board with a couple of plays in the bottom side. Notice that Crazy Goose also yet again having a really solid performance as well.
Yeah, Crazy Goose having another solid performance. 2-0-3, 100% KP currently, 13.5 minutes into the game, as Dragon, though, gets secured by Striking Viper, and they're going to take that victory for themselves in that regard, as we will have Mountain Soul for our Soul Dragon for this game. As you can see, another setup on a potential dive onto this Mundo.
Really difficult here for the Mundo. Pain is going to have to back off. Izo also has the ability, but here I think wave clear advantage goes to Volibear significantly. And dive potential also I think is much lower here, only because I think without Taric Ultimate, or with Taric Ultimate they can do it. But again, trying to dive this Volibear is difficult because of the Q being him stunned, and then the ultimate getting him out and a lot more health on top of him does make it easier to go for. So that's why Pain has to back up so far, and Izo was able to access the wave as Yasin stuck out of position.
But you dropped the bots, but look what was inside. It was a troll all along, and that's going to be a kill going over to Striking Viper. A little bit more overreaching coming out from Wildcard Developmental.
That it is. They work into Krugs, where Yasin just steps way too far up and is punished by the opposing laners as that top lane tower is taken down. The attempted punish here from Vista and Zumin, my apologies, are not able to pull top tower. Now Hayami comes in for the engagement as well.
Yeah, and Suman is getting jumped onto. Lots of damage being laid onto him. Put out that
Ooh.
Cosmic Radiance. Is going to be able to lay it out onto Visa right before he dies. Enchanted Crystal Arrow not going to be able to connect. Laying in a lot of arrows. Beautiful
Wow.
stun onto 2 members. Visa taking so much damage from these stars. And no kills to go over to Striking Viper. Even though they laid the damage out onto Ivano, he stands on top.
Despite the Enchanted Crystal Arrow missing, really well played from Ivano right there, using the ultimate with the fully or with like the fully distanced Q for additional damage, and then into a full star rotation on W is so much damage, half health both the targets that were sitting there, and allows Hayami to bring them both down. Even if he trades, ends up being really positive, because that's not only the play in mid lane, it was the play on top side to be able to snag that tower away, and the defensive mid tower that all came through for once. So now you're able to put Crazy Goose there. There's no chance that they're going to be able to snag that tower anytime soon without a big play coming through, and Yasin's going to be able to help control this mid lane, as well as Izo's also still a menace in the side lanes in his own regard on that foot as well. So
yeah, and seeing what is exactly going to continue on forward here is it does look like we have a little bit of some further tech difficulties coming up. We do apologize for that, as we are going to see exactly what's going on and how to resolve these issues. As oh, there we go, quick fix. I told you guys we got you. Going back into the game here, and no kills to be missed just yet. Looks like we're just in time. Death sentence not connecting onto the Callista.
not quite. Close with Yasin, flash over the wall, able to get him into a good position. And again, now with mid lane, I think with Ashe, with this volley, it makes it really difficult for Callista to push any further. Also, it decided for, instead of the Gale Force, to go into the likes of the Kraken Slayer for extra DPS this game. I think it's a valid option, only because the dive potential is pretty much just Callista ultimate, so you should be fine without the Gale Force in general. As now Crazy Goose actually found that volley onto the Ori, forces out Stevenator, at least.
Oh, Shockwave! Huge damage,
Hayami.
but it's not enough. They're going to be able to trade 1-for-1 there. Oh, man, it almost
And
looked like
tower.
he wasn't going to get that kill, but another tower going over to Striking, though, in the mid lane. That's going to be their first tower of the game while Pain is putting the pressure. And look how much damage you're laying onto this tower.
I was gonna say, moving this like Ashe out of lane to try to put aggression into the Orianna.
Oh,
Straight to me.
this
Now
is
even
who you want to
Iso.
catch out here. The Volibear taking a good amount of damage. That's going to be
Hayami
Trundle
around
finding
back.
the kill for himself. Hayami's coming around onto the flank. Is looking for a possible angle. It's going to be
Need
Zoomed. It's
support
going to be
first.
put down. He's going to find himself getting jumped onto as the challenge is laid out. They're laying out so much damage
Nope,
onto the
there's one,
Ballista.
there's two.
That's a double kill coming on through Trundle. Barely able to survive. A
Oh,
triple
goodness.
kill to Ivano on the Aurelian Soul. They're looking to try and hunt down this troll under the bridge. But he is going to finally
I thought he
find himself getting into a tricky spot.
Oh,
It's going to
Hayami.
be him dashing over the wall. Hayami looking to see if he can secure the kill. Will he be able to get one more tap?
Nice.
It is not
Whoa,
going to come through. That is an execute. And it will not be a kill going over the wild card in the bot side.
Did he really miss that W?
Yep.
It looked like it was right on, man.
Yep, right above him.
I'm a little astonished right there that actually happened. That was a little crazy. I really was expecting that to hit, but still, good counter punches from Wildcard. They had lost quite a bit on that play, because again, Ashe got brought down by the Orianna to start things off. They lose 2 mid towers off the push that came through as well, because they shifted 4 up to top side, and thankfully they were able to pull enough members here that they were able to find a couple of trade kills and keep their gold advantage despite all the tower loss. So like, it's bleeding here. It's not as clean as it was in game number 1, but it's still very clear that the fighting and the potential there from Wildcard is happening, especially now. Ivano picked up 3 kills in that fight, has the 10 stack Magi. You've got Hayami, who's gone absolutely off on this Xin Zhao, and now the combination of those two will really begin to win the map. Even though it didn't happen early, they're starting to transition to that here in this mid game.
It's so weird when you say that, though, Rebel. Like, we were expecting, the Permarone, Aurelian Soul, and the Xin Zhao, knowing nothing but aggression inside the laning phases. There was none of that. And now, all of a sudden, it's mid-game, and this is like Striking Vipers. They're in their true power spike here. This is their power trove. They've got the itemization. They've got the moves. And wait a second, the Aurelian Soul Xin Zhao are popping off. Wait a second, this is supposed to be what they are not as strong as the Striking Vipers. A very interesting comparison coming out between the two here, but I still like the fact that Striking Vipers are constantly looking for moments to capitalize on mistakes. This is a much better look from them than what we saw in game number 1.
I 100% agree. Yeah, Striking Vipers at minimum are finding advantages on the map to capitalize on, even if they are losing fights afterwards and like giving away gold that isn't necessary to give away in 100% of situations. it is at least a much better, more comparable game in this regard. Their scaling is still also pretty good. You can still rely on some team fighting tactics with like the ultimate and everything coming through. So you have that to come in. But it is a lot of power that's being given over with all these kills, with all these shutdowns and things that are being traded to the side of Wildcard. And my fear is that that also is going to be a lot easier to enforce with Xin Zhao than it is with something like Kalista Ultimate, especially if like pressure and river is taken, because then you don't have vision for Kalista to just be standing in like the fog of war compared to the enemy. Throw that in and all of a sudden you don't expect a Kalista Ultimate. Now if you're seeing it from a while back, that only threat onto Ashe is just gone off the map completely, which is my one concern for what they've got.
Yeah, I feel like when you say it like that, I mean, I feel like there's multiple concerns to have from both of these sides right now. And you know what? There's one concern we don't have to have, and that's getting back into the game, because we're back in here, and I'm ready to see it. Hopefully that is the last of the tech issues, the tech difficulties to come through here and see what we are going to be able to get into here. As Eureka, we have game sound, ladies and gentlemen. As we're seeing the dance going in between the River Death Sentence to connect. But the Hero of Death Sentence is not going to be followed up onto, as the rest of the squad was looking to bend around. And Trundle is now here to join the fray.
There's a big flank from Aurelion. Big flank from Aurelion.
Oh, the stars! That's a 4-person that they're getting into damage onto here. Laying in the hurt. They're looking to do more. Fate's Call will be used. Zuman's going to go back in for the re-engage. Stevenator's caught out of position. Is going to be taken out by Izo. It's going to be also the Trundle being popped as well. Trundle looking to see what he'll be able to do as the Tarek is going to go down. That is 3 kills just like that off a beautiful flank and beautiful team play coming out from Wildcard Developmental.
And you see here that like Maestros have this like decent gold value to work with, and a team fight that can work when your ultimates are used in the proper fashion. But in this fight, the Maestros are not able to find anything like that. All of their ultimates are used in dispersal after the initial engagement comes through from Ivano. You didn't even need Hayami on that one. It was just a flank coming out Q into Everfrost is all the CC and the damage that you need to start things off immediately. Zuman has to use that ultimate, otherwise multiple members are going to go down. And from that point, Striking Vipers just get scattered to the absolute wind. Everybody torn apart. All that happened from that point was Wildcard said, okay, everybody group up into one line, and at this point, the only thing that they could do is try to ult us with Orianna, but it had been burnt at that point during the course of the fight, and it's just too easy. Wildcard clearly knowing how to use this composition very effectively to just kind of poke thorns into the side of the Maestros.
I mean, honestly, it was also something that was really nice to see of how they played around Tarek, right? Like, playing to get around Tarek can always be such a very interesting thing. Ivano caught out of position, but is not going to be caught out for very long there. It's going to be able to escape, but I really got to, shout that out, because that is something that takes a lot of coordination to be able to do. And Striking Vipers looking a little bit shook there after that haymaker of a punch coming out from Wildcard Developmental. See how they might look to recover at this moment in time, as it might be down here in the bot side.
But they do. They might be able to find something. Izo's on his own down here, kind of tanking into everything else. Pyrion. This is tough. Ultimate's there from Izo, but no flash, so he has to be careful. Yasin's here for Lantern, though, in case he does need it. So there's that aggression is going to get canceled for the most part. Yeah, they're looking for something, but, a tower fallen, I think Striking Vipers definitely take that to accrue this gold lead a little bit more in their favor. Yep, they'll take 3.5. They'll drop this gold value any amount that they can. I think they want to be able to find these like multiple person engagements, especially when they're the ones initiating it. Like if they're the ones in the 5-on-5 pushing things with ultimate, if you're like Kalista ulting with Tarek, throwing that in, setting up like a shockwave or something, that all of a sudden looks like an amazing fight from Striking Vipers rather than Wildcard, who like when they find their engagement, the opposite's true. So situations like this are really threatening, because again, if Wildcards stay too long or they stay without their full team together with like the strength to involve everybody, then like if the engagement comes out from the Maestros, they absolutely will be able to take a fight in that regard. They're not that far behind, even at like 3,500 gold in 21 minutes. It's a good advantage, but it's not enough to just determine the game at this point. But you know what threatens me? The Xin Zhao being the highest level inside the game, right? Yeah. Level 13, the other two people that are level 13. You just saw Aurelion Soul ding it, and Payne and Stevenator just hit it as well. Hayami is putting on a clinic on this Xin Zhao right now, and is really terrifying to be spotted out for. So I feel like you gotta kind of keep an eye on this Gladiator, because he's outside the arena and he's looking to take some names. You're also seeing constant pushing in 3 lanes because of how fast Aurelion Sol can make it into other places. It's similar to how like a Quinn operates without teleport. If you want to run like Flash Ignite, your ultimate with Valor is enough to get you across the map. It's the same thing with Ivano, who's using that to his advantage right now.
Yeah, and this is just beautiful. Yet
my
again, just immediately deletes this Callista off the map. No Taric in sight. Pain comes in, but it's just so much damage being laid out. The Trundle is caught out of position and is not long for the world. He's trying to subjugate, do whatever he can to stay alive, but it's not enough as the tip of the spear will still find him.
I'm going to give a little bit of props here just to something that Hayami did during that fight, because obviously Ivano was crossing into mid. This is that rotation we're talking about. It's so fast for Aurelion to strike into another lane, but waited for the blast cone to go off before using E, but also only used 2 autos of the Q, the 3 Talon Strike, before attacking off that E to try to knock him up out of the blast cone. So even if you were to get away, that was going to happen. It shows
Look
Hayami's
at
skill
this.
here.
The play yet again, the coordination coming out from them. They find the Ori, they find Pain. And it's just Ivano on a rampage, Wildcard on a rampage, and this is going to be Baron that will be taken away in favor of Wildcard.
You're not allowed to contest this, I don't think. Like, even with Callista, even with, like a Taric and things like that are popping back up, without Pyro in and without everybody else on your team coming about, I think Callista had actually died. So without that and without Pyro in with your Smite, you're never going to be able to contest against the Baron buff, even with the powerful ultimates to come through. So, like, they tried to throw something at the wall to see if it sticks, but there from the side of Maestros, all you're doing is giving up more gold to the side of Wildcard, who now also, like, they've got this Baron buff, but they've also got Rift Herald just charging down mid lane. They're going to try to make this push work and shove down as much as you can. And with this kind of contingent of all 5 of their members as much as possible being here, they can keep them out of just like a flank onto mid lane or a pure outright team fight, which should secure them at least mid-inner tower here against the side of the Maestros. We'll see if they want to opt for a fight. Pain's the only one here, and again, your members are closer to what is happening right now.
Damage he gets done to him. He's all by himself.
No.
He just wants to know where they are.
What are they doing? They're going to Dragon. You're losing your base. You're losing the base. What are you doing, man? They had inner track on you, I understand, but wrap around and defend your inhibitor tower, because right now they're just pushing for the win.
Yeah, they're looking for Dance and Shelly at this time. They're probably going to find it. They CC to Callista. They take her down. They're finding another tower. The Nexus has been exposed. And Striking Viper Maestro makes mistake after mistake, and it cost them in the end. Wildcard Developmental find a 2-0 victory.
They bled out deals in the earlier stages. It's painful, man. It really is just painful to watch that happen. Because, like, they played so well to begin the game. They started off on such a good foot. They had these advantages they could strike with. They've got a solid team fight foundation. Everything comes through for them, and they bled out too much gold, and they're like, okay, you're giving too much to Hayami. You're giving too much to Ivano to actually compete inside of these fights. And then right there, you see, like, at this critical moment in the game where it's like they have Baron, they have Rift Herald, they pop it in mid lane. You have, like, a kind of a wide margin that you have to fight back to mid lane for, and they just make this massive critical error of going, hey, let's go to Dragon. They're not playing for Dragon, man. If they're going to threaten your base, like, even if that goes to inhibitor exclusively, that is still a losing play to come through. And it upsets me because, again, the fight was possibly there. The eventuality of taking a fight, if Orianna gets into the late game, if you've got like 4 items on Callista, it might show up at some point. But they don't even get that chance because they make that improper call. And it's a bad way to just end up going out here from the side of Striking Vipers.
But yeah, the shout outs going out to Wildcard Developmental for making the right calls, right? Like, especially in one of the things I do want to talk about is the fact that we got to see some very impressive calls. The positioning that happened inside of these fights was absolutely beautiful from the side of Wildcard Developmental. And honestly, I feel like that is definitely something that me personally highlight. Looking at the Aurelion Sol waiting in the flank and then just being like, all right, now I strike, and just getting these big giant ults was phenomenal to be able to see. So congratulations again to Wildcard Developmentalists. They absolutely deserve that 2-0. They definitely played phenomenal tonight.
It was substitutes too, because like you think their main jungler wasn't here. They had Hayami in. They had a different bot lane in because sometimes it's Psycho Cleave. Tonight it was Crazy Goose and Yasin. And I've seen Yasin before. I was impressed by Yasin. I think Yasin had a performance that was it was similar to what we've seen from him in previous days. But the one that impressed me the most was actually Crazy Goose. I think Crazy Goose was absolutely nuts tonight on that ADC position, and something I'd like to see a lot more of in the future, because that combination looked really good. The Ashe was something that's really cool. I've seen it pop up a couple of times, but playing that's an absolute aplomb, helping out his team, being able to CC properly, being that DPS threat all at once was really impressive. So props to the entire team, especially to their adaptability.
Absolutely. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us here on the caster desk. We have our analyst desk that are ready to break down everything that happened inside of that series. So make sure you guys stick tuned. Take it away, boys.
I'm confused and distraught yet again here, friends. More question marks coming your way that I might actually have to spam in until I'm not allowed to. I don't even have a personal reaction to the game. I feel like we were meant to see League of Legends. I think we did. Eric, what do you think? Did you watch League today? Thank you, Eric. Miko, thoughts?
I think what Vipers should do in the future is remember what the champions were being picked in the past games. I think that would be really helpful for them in the future, because in my personal opinion, personal, not objective at all, Kalista is a really bad champion into Ashe, and from my memory, they played Ashe in game 1. So the fact that you thought about that is something that you should really work upon, because unless you are absolutely confident in the matchup and you could like outplay them, which if you had that mindset, then good for you. But you also have to come to reality, and if you don't make that matchup work, then you have to face the consequences.
And Miko, sticking with you on this, you mentioned about the questions around draft. Definitely, yeah, they were honestly counterpicking themselves. But any particular thoughts on gameplay, perhaps you wanted to expound upon and up the Vipers up?
I think in terms I think this is a small shout out to Izo and the way that he played the lane. It's typically Mundo is actually really good into Volibear, because the overall thing, the reason why I really liked Wildcard Development's team against Dr. Mundo was because there's one thing that the champion hates, and it's slows. The passive does not go through it at all. It's completely useless. So when you have champions like Ashe on your team that constantly slows them down, it's really good. And vice versa, Mundo does really well into Volibear as well, because when Volibear is trying to run into you and try to trade, then you just get slowed immediately. And then same thing with Volibear, the Q doesn't reset like it normally would. But he still managed to play the lane really well, made a really good point around 5 minutes into the game where the wave was coming into him, and then the trundle was pathing towards the other side. And during that time, he was creating a really difficult situation for the team, where he was able to freeze the top side, maximize pressure, and then bring everybody towards the side, and then allow the other part of the map to play his game. So that's really good gameplay. So good for him on that.
Yeah. Eric, on your end too, anything you want to get across to the Vipers to make sure that next week things go a little bit smoother for them?
Get a coach. Some of these drafts, man. Miko's right here if you want to hire him. But some of those draft decisions, like the Kalista one, is the biggest head scratcher to me. Miko's already elaborated on that enough. I did feel like Wildcard were coming in a bit cocky after that game number 1, picking the Aurelion Soul as the very last pick, but they're a confident team. They played well. Hiyami on Xin Zhao, he knows the champion and the rest of the squad. I mean, the bot lane did falter a little bit. We saw some faltering in the mid lane from Wildcard. Again, it did feel like hubris coming out of them, but they were able to just clean it up, do the old 24-minute bait and switch Baron. Hey, we're doing Baron. Actually, we're engaging on you, and wipe the floor with striking Vipers afterwards.
Like y'all mentioned, right? Looking deeply into the decisions that you're making and taking time to reflect on previous games. I find that's the only way that if you are in these best of 3 to best of 5 series, if you are not able to adapt to your opponents, then Darwinism will unfortunately be your ultimate fate. But hey, that's my overall opinion on it, though. I do want to thank the casters, of course, Rebel Fox and Travesty, for taking us through a fantastic day. Dustrux and Miko, I wanted to see if you guys had closing thoughts at all.
Closing thoughts. Let's talk about the closing moment of that game, because what the hell was that?
I had a thought process in my head that was pretty much it's one of those things where in like, have you guys seen the movie Titanic?
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
there are like compartments to lock the water, right? And every
Mhm.
single time that a compartment explodes, the captain's mindset is, oh, the next one's gonna hold, right? And then the next one doesn't hold again, and the next one doesn't hold again, and then before you know it, the ship is sunk. That's literally what that was. They went for the dragon, which is a sole point. Like, I guess in some ways, in 5 minutes you have a win condition. Congratulations, but
Mhm.
that means that you have to get to those 5 minutes of the game. But the Nexus was just exploding while they were talking about it. So it's just a lot of nerves, I guess. Like, it is a match game. And when you're actually at high stakes opportunities, like if you don't have the ability to adapt to the pressure, then you're going to make egregious mistakes like that. It most likely is not against anything against the players. It's just something that they just have to get used to if they want to compete in high stakes and like tournaments like these.
Eric, on your end too. I mean, although we did not get to see Dancing Shelly, that she did fall right before she could be alive in front of the Nexus. Across the board, though, from end game to mid game to even early game, like Wildcard, just absolutely, yet again, steamrolled their entire brigade of Striking Vipers. Could honestly looked helpless in front of them.
It was a team diff this time, like the entire squad. Props to Striking Vipers for giving their best, but Wildcard in this matchup in this group is built different than everyone else.
Yep, built different indeed, as are all of you, I should say. So I do want to thank you for being by my side. Miko, appreciate you being here on the desk with us, like you mentioned. Of course, thank you to our productions for powering through all of the issues here today. And of course, a little big shout out to Emily as well on the backside for helping things run a little bit smoother as well. We want to thank you all for watching. We'll be back here next week, Thursday, same time, same place. So do not miss us. I have been Ravishing Graves, most ravishing man on the internet. We'll catch you then. Peace.